Welcome back to the Eastbourne Fisherman. Don't forget to click on the subscribe button and hit the bell to be updated as soon as we release new videos. Today what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you 3 fantastic rigs to use for smoothhound fishing. Right then, so the first rig we're going to look at is a single hook Paternoster rig, or as I call it, a single hook Clipdown rig. For the single hook Clipdown rig, I'm going to be using this Asso Ultraflex shot leader. I've marked it out and cut it at 5 foot. I believe that's pretty ample for what I want to do. Recommended size, I mean, people say you can use up to 6 foot, but I think that's a bit too big for me personally, and what I want to do. So yeah, 5 foot is the main rig body. What we're going to do is we're going to take the end of the shot leader, we're going to put our weight clip on, and then just tie our blood knot onto the weight clip. Always make sure we wet the knot before we pull the knot and set the knot, to prevent the line being burnt. So that is our weight clip on the end. Just going to take our line cutters and cut the tag end off. So what we're going to do now is we're going to feed some components onto the end. What I like to do is I just like to cut the top of the line at a 45-degree angle, which just makes it easier to put the crimps on. So we're going to go for a crimp. A bead. Swivel. A bead. And a crimp. And then what we're going to do on the top, so it's nice and simple, just a leg clip there, crimp, bead, swivel, bead, crimp, and then we're going to tie off to the top end our other swivel using the same 6-turn blood knot. So 6-turn blood knot is 6 twists up the line, and then you take the tag end, put it back through the hole at the bottom, pull and moisten, grab your pliers and just slowly pull the knot down to set the knot. That sets a nice tight knot on the swivel. Again, we cut off our tag ends, and that is your main rig body. So that's the bottom end there. Obviously it's not clipped up yet, and then the top end is there. So that's the main rig body done. Let's move on and do the hook length. Right then, so we're just going to run through a couple of the items that we need to make this single hook clip down rig. We're going to need our Asso Ultraflex shock leader, our Amnesia Snood line, we've got a weight clip, 2 swivels, I like to use the power swivels, we've got 2 beads, 2 crimps, and then the Cox Rawle Specimen X in 2.0, which is my favourite hooks at the moment for targeting the bigger fish. Let's crack on and make the rig. Right, so for the hook snood line we're going to use our Amnesia, which is 30-pound Amnesia. I'm going to measure that out and cut it at 4 foot. Then we're going to take one of our Cox Rawle Specimen X hooks in 2.0, and then we're just going to tie it on the end. And then I'm just going to pull the hook in the pliers to set the knot. Once we've done that, we're going to trim off the tag end, and then we can attach our hook to our main rig body. To do that, we take the other end and attach it to the swivel on the main rig body. making sure that knot is nice and set tight. Cutting off the tag end. And now all we need to do is just crimp our crimps, and then I'll show you what the whole rig looks like. Right guys, so I just made this quick demonstrational rig up. It's a slightly smaller rig than the rig I've actually made, just to show you on the rig board itself. So the top of the hook has the swivel. Running down, we have our crimps and bead and swivel, and then coming down to the end, the business end, which is where our hook sits. It sits behind the weight shield of the lead, and then once that pops, you're left with a long flowing hook snood, which is potentially away from the lead. So there it is then guys, there's the first rig I'm going to be using to target Smoothounds this year. So this is the single hook Paternoster, or single hook clip down rig as I like to call it. Once the water hits the shield, boom, pings off, and you're left with a long trace away from the lead. Right then guys, so the next rig we're going to look at for Smoothounds is the running ledger. So it's just a simple, nice and easy rig used for closer in range. I'm going to potentially use this in the night, hopefully when the fish are slightly closer in. So this is the running ledger rig I'm going to be using. I'll show you the bits that we need to make it. Right then guys, so these are the bits that we're going to need to make the running ledger rig. We're going to use the same shot leader, which is the Asso Ultraflex £70, the same hook line, which is the Amnesia £30, same hooks, Specimen X, Cox Rawle. When I actually make my ones for going out smoothhound fishing, I'll potentially be using anything from a 2.0 to a 4.0, and possibly we'll be trying circle hooks as well. So I mean, you know, you're not restricted to just using these hooks. Try different hooks, find something that works for you. The swivels I'm going to be using the power swivels. So we've got two of them, two larger beads this time, and then we've got one of these things. So this is a zip slider. So what it does is it's got holes in, and you attach your weight on it, and it slides up and down the line to create the running ledger effect. Right, so let's crack on and we'll make this rig. Right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make our running ledger part of the rig. What I've done is I've cut a piece of shock leader to 2 foot. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach the swivel to one end. Once the swivel's attached to the end, I'm just going to cut off the tag. I'm going to feed the following components on as follows. So we're going to go for a bead, just to protect the knot. We're going to put our zip slider on, which is what our weight's going to be running up and down on. We're then going to put another bead on, and then we're going to tie off our last swivel. So it's a nice, simple, easy rig. To hopefully catch us some smoothhounds. Right, so I'm just going to show you the rig. So there's the swivel at one end, you've got your bead, your zip slider, your other bead, and then your swivel. So essentially what we'll do is you'll clip your weight on. Clip your weight onto the zip slider, like so, and then you now have a running ledger. So the weight will freely move up and down the line on the zip slider, which is great. So obviously when the fish takes the bait, it will run, it will run, it will run, it won't feel the weight, and then you know, the fish has got less resistance because it can't feel the weight. So hopefully when it takes the bait, it will make a run for it, and then you know, you would hopefully grab the fish at the end. Right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to make our hook length. And then I'll put a slightly smaller demonstration up on the board so you guys can see. Right then, so the hook length again we're going to be using is this Amnesia £30. We cut the hook length to 4 foot, and we're just going to tie our hook on the end. Nice and simple. So once our hook's tied onto the end, what we're going to do is we're going to take the other end, and we're just going to tie this end onto the swivel. Putting both lines tight. Cinch down the knot. Cutting off the tag end. And there we have it. So the running ledger part is on the top of the main line. And then we got our hook length on the bottom. I'll get it on the rig board and I'll show you guys what it looks like. Right, so I'm going from the top, and here's the hook. We come down. Here's our running ledger part, so we've got the weight that can freely move up and down this running ledger part of the line. Coming down, and we've got the hook there. Obviously, when we're casting out, we'll just clip this hook with the bait on, like that. Then we'll cast the rig out. Once that rig hits the seabed, the hook will obviously come off the prong, and you end up with a nice running ledger with the weight to freely move up and down. And then when obviously the fish takes the hook, it won't feel the resistance of the lead. So that's another rig that I'll be using for close-in work, obviously once the Smoothounds come. Final rig, possibly my favourite rig, is going to be the Trident Hangover Rig. I absolutely love this rig. I think it's a fantastic rig. So yeah, let's crack on and I'll show you how to make this one. To make the Trident Tackle Hangover Rig, you will need the following: a shock leader, your Snood line, your hooks of your choice. You've got a couple of crimps there, some beads, a swivel, a SRT spring, the Trident Hangover clip itself there, and 2 Termalinks as well. Let's crack on and make this rig. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut our shock leader line. This line is going to be 3 foot. We're going to take our Termalink. We are going to pass our line through the hole at the bottom and tie our knot. Once we tied our knot, we're going to pull that down with our pliers. And just snip off the tag end. We're going to place the following items onto the rig. So I don't put a crimp at the bottom, I just go straight in with a bead. Then we're going to go for our swivel. We're followed by another bead. Followed by our crimp. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to put another crimp on. This is going to be for our top hangover part. I like to then put a bead on just underneath the spring. Personal preference. I then put the spring on. And then the hangover part goes on, making sure this tag end is up that way. Once that's all on there, I finish the rig by tying a Termalink onto the top. Alright, so once you've done that, you should have a rig that looks like this, or the main line should look like this. So we've got the term link at the bottom, we've got our bead, our swivel, our bead, our crimp, our bead, our spring, and our hangover bit there. And on the other end, we have our other termalink. What I like to do is I like to crimp that right at the bottom. So just crimp that first crimp right at the bottom, and then that is our fixed point, because we want the snood to be underneath the lead of this rig. Right, so once we've done that, that's the main line done. We're going to move on to the snood line. Right guys, so the snood line I've cut for this hangover rig at 5 foot. Tie one hook onto one end, pull that nice and tight. Cut off my tag end. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the other end of the snood line, tie it to my swivel, as follows. And then we're going to pull that knot, so that's nice and tight. Cut off our tag end, and that is pretty much our rig nearly done. All we need to do now is we need to hang it up on the rig board, and we need to just crimp our hangover in place. To do that, what we do is we hang the rig up, we put the weight on the bottom, we then put the hook on the weight. You locate the hook into this point of the weight. We then run the line up, and where the hook clips over the hangover and back on, that's where we crimp it down to. Just show you the Trident tackle hangover rig up on the old board. So we've got the termalink at the top, we've got the business end here, which is the Trident tackle hangover, our SRT spring and our bead and crimp. Moving down the rig, we then have our business end, so we've got our 2.0 Specimen X Cox Rawle, our termalink, and our other beads and so on and so forth, and our other beads and so on and so forth, which are there. So the swivel runs up over the hangover clip and then back down to our hook. Once the pressure of the water hits the hangover clip, it will pop, eject the line, and you'll end up with a long flowing trace which is underneath the lead. Our long flowing trace will now be right under the lead and right away from the lead as well. So there's the top part of the rig, the hangover, and there it is at the bottom. Absolutely fantastic rig, really streamlined, really nice. I really like using this rig, it's probably one of my favourite rigs actually. And then boom, you're left with the long trace underneath the lead. So there guys, you have it. 3 different types of rigs you can use for smoothhound fishing. Let me know what rig you like best in the comments below. If you tried different rigs for this, I know people use pulley droppers as well. You can't find all these rigs I've made today in previous videos that I've done. Just thought it would be nicer for you guys to have all the information crammed into one video, so that when you decide you want to crack on and make some of these smoothhound rigs before the lockdown lifts, all the information's here for you, and you can give them a good crack and give them a good go yourselves. Thanks very much for joining me guys, and cheers. I'll see you next time.